2% think, 3% think they think, 95% would rather die than think. Meaning they just look around the room and see what everybody else is doing and they become conformed to it.
Yep.
Right?
Fall in line,
right? Because they're scared to think for themselves. Or when times get hard, right? They're scared to think for themselves. They go right back to default. So it's very important that you change your default, whatever your default is in your computer, which is your brain. Whatever your default is, it's very important to change it to what you want. Like Bob said this. I think the biggest thing what Bob told me, there was 2 quotes that Bob really smacked me on the head about. He said, most people, what'd he say? How do you escape from a prison when you don't know you're in one?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mind Flux podcast. And today we have a very special, very powerful, very impactful guest. Guys, this show is for independent thinking. So if it's your first time listening, this is a show where we talk about not just what to think about, but how to think, how to change the way you look at yourself, your results, the people around you, how to change everything. That's what Flux means. It means to change. It means to flow. So welcome to Mind Flux if this is your first time listening. And guys, understand this episode is going to be filled with value. So whatever you take from this episode, share it with a friend. But most importantly, leave us a review on iTunes. It's going to boost our rankings to get this to more people, or subscribe on YouTube, both of which are free, but it helps us push this message out to more people in this journey. As always, we are recorded downtown in Indianapolis, produced entirely by Benji Got Beats. I'm one of your hosts, Tristan Parmley, and my other host,
Josh Matthews.
And Josh, because you have so much history and incredible stories about this man, the man, the myth, the legend, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest for today, too?
Yeah, so we got my good friend. I look at him, he's like he's a mentor, one of my first mentors. I also look at him as just like a big brother, just someone I know, like if I ever need anything, I could just like hit him up and be like, or even if it's like advice or anything. But, I got my good friend, mentor, Darrin Gibson here. And I'm just excited about this episode because Darrin, he's made an incredible impact on my life. When I first got started with my entrepreneurship journey, I looked up to this guy. I looked up to, the way he moved, the way he led people, the way he spoke, the way he just carried himself when it came to growth and everything. So I hope this episode has just as much impact on everyone as, his mentorship has, with me. So excited to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Tristan, that was amazing, man. I needed to bring you on, bring you on the road with me.
Done it a few times, man. Been working on it for a while.
That was good, man.
No prep. It just kind of happens. Just kind of let whatever's guided me happen on there. But welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
Man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Seriously.
Sure.
And guys, some cliff notes just about Darrin. First time in this whole entrepreneurship journey thing, right? You were like the guy to not only Josh, but also to myself. So the people who know Josh and I's story, coming together, random roommates in college and two totally opposite worlds, colliding, all this crazy stuff, some cliff notes about Darrin. He works with Bob Proctor, which is someone we talk about on the show a lot, some things we reference. You impacted actually the message and the voice and kind of validated where we were going with this when we interviewed you the first time. So if you guys want that recording, it's in the vault. You guys can get access to that at mindflux.com/the vault. And you pulled up to college, to our university, in a Lambo.
Yeah.
Now,
probably shouldn't have did that where you guys were at, but yeah.
in Terre Haute, Indiana, right? I'm 18 years old. I'm in college. I'm seeing all these new faces, new cultures, new experiences. And Josh is like, hey, you should check this thing out, this network marketing thing out. And I'm just I got track doing all this stuff. And he's like, no, you should check this thing out. We talked to some really cool people. And then this guy named Darrin shows up in a Lambo. I'd never seen a supercar. I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never met people my age or around my age that were making money or pursuing something different. And it literally is unscrewed the lid. Yeah. You know what I mean? For my mind. And I was oh, snap, this is possible.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to ask you and push back to you is what is in your life limits and possibilities? You're on this journey and I'm sure we're going to unpack some more about you, but what you did for Josh and I think what you do for so many people on this path is show what's possible. So when did that happen for you? And like, when did that cap get unscrewed for you to move forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was talking to somebody yesterday. He's young. He's just started our business. He's 18 years old, and he kind of asked me a similar question yesterday. And what I told him was, I never really was into cars like that. You know, when people ask me all the time about vehicles and et cetera, I really did that because it was a goal. And I like what Bob says: goals are not for you to get; it's for you to grow.
Right.
And I really just did that because the person that showed me the opportunity of what I'm in today, he had a vehicle like that. So when I got in his car, I think exposure is the key. It's really the key. You know, it builds your awareness. And when I got in his vehicle, I was like, man, this is tough. I like this. And he was like, you can have one of these. So ever since then, with that conversation, I just made it a goal not to get the vehicle. It was for me to grow into that person that I wanted to become. So when I started to realize what it did for me, I wanted to do the same thing for other people as well, like you two. I mean, I remember when I first met you, when you first walked out of your room, and you're a total different guy now, based on the awareness now, because you've been exposed to bigger and better. And when you see bigger and better, you want to do bigger and better. So I think exposure is the key, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think so too. Like with exposure, I mean, that's the big thing for me. Like I was never raised to be around certain things like that until I was like 19.
Yeah.
Like my family didn't teach, you know, and it's not a knock on them. They weren't aware of those type of things. So like, how would you recommend someone to get exposed to those, to like that you know, category of, you know,
What they see online.
What they see
is
online
like it's real.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was back in 2014. I went to my first Bob Proctor seminar, and right then and there, you know, when you feel uncomfortable in a place, but you still like that uncomfortability.
Yeah.
I think with me, it was just so uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable because I wasn't used to seeing that. You know, I was the only one I was extremely young. I was still in college when I went there. I had no type of success, but I'm in a room full of people that are successful. So that just kind of made me right there feel uncomfortable, but I still like that comfortability. Yeah. So I kept going back to different seminars. I went back. I didn't talk to my family members about it. I didn't want negative Nancy's or sour Steves in my ear. Right. I wanted to just keep going back so that I can build my awareness. And then I made that uncomfortability comfortable for me. So I think that if you're trying to get into that awareness of growth, you got to be around growing people. You know, you forget about the cars, forget about the income you're earning. Just be around genuine people that are really trying to grow. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like that impression of increase. Like, even though you're uncomfortable, like, you can feel that there's people around either doing more or doing better, or both. Yeah. And, like, I think a lot of people can feel that, like, pressure and then kind of start to shy away from it, or they go to people who are at their level or, like, below to ask for advice, if that makes sense. And not saying, like, below in terms of, like, as a human, but in terms of where they're going or where they're trying to grow to, right? So, like, though I know, like, with sports, for example, like a coach will tell a new athlete what to do, and then they'll go like complain about it to the other athletes that are not as good, even as good as them, or like that are just like the same on the same level, like to complain about the coach, right? And that reminds me of something you said the first time we recorded. Like, if we're gonna do it your way, we're gonna keep getting your results, right? And like people aren't willing to take that change and understand like these people are doing more or they're doing better, so like I got to do something different. So when I ask you too, like, what exactly do you do? And I think for all of our new listeners, I think we'll have a lot of listeners that come to this as a reference, you know, to learn about you. But like, can you just tell us where are you at in your life right now in terms of career and business, and like what do you do that's kind of attracting, you know, so many people to you?
Yeah, I think, I fell in love with network marketing. One, because of the lifestyle, never seen anything like it. Two, because of the personal growth, the personal development. And three, the mentorship. You know, I was talking to the young guy yesterday. I said, you know, follow the mentor. Go look for a mentor. Look for a mentor that's going to stretch you time to time, that's going to, you know, guide you in the right direction. So I think most people, like, network marketing has a bad name. You know, let's just put it out there. It has a bad, terrible name in most cases because most people don't understand it. And I didn't understand it in the beginning. I criticized it, and I mean, these guys can contest to that, you know. But once I built my awareness of what it really means and what it really is, and that's one thing, you got to be open-minded to new different things. I mean, the Bible even says it, be curious, be more like children. You got to be curious to look into new different things that doesn't make sense to your paradigm. If you want something bigger and better, you're going to have to go against your paradigm, and that's going to feel uncomfortable. And sometimes it's not going to feel like you're going in the right direction. But you got to be willing and able to do that. So, and that's what I did. And I think that most people get into this profession that we're in today for one reason, but they stay in for many reasons. Like my one reason was Bob recommended me to get into it. And then my second reason why I'm staying in it now is because now I work with his wife, and his wife is an amazing, I'm in the pinnacle side with her now. You know, she's an amazing mentor. I'm very loyal to her now because of all the things that they've done for me. So, and then obviously the amazing products that the companies have and et cetera. So it's just finding that mentor, man, and just doing exactly what that mentor tells you to do. Like, I like what you just said. I forgot I even said that.
I've used that a lot.
Right.
I've used a lot of what you said that day, like
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I've mentored a lot of people. And I've realized, like I said last time, that most people want to be coached, but they want to be coached their way. And if we keep coaching you your way, we're going to keep getting your results. So it's very important, imperative that you obviously trust and believe what your mentor by results that they have, that they know what they're talking about, and do exactly what that mentor tells you to do. Like in the beginning, I had no clue why Bob said, hey, get in network marketing. It's one of the best ways where you can earn multiple streams of income and help a lot of people around the world. It didn't make sense to me, but I still had the results that Darrin Gibson had. So, and Bob has obviously his results.
Right.
So I'm going to be coachable and not chokeable and listen to exactly what he tells me to do.
Yeah.
Right. And what I think is like very admirable, and we talk about it a lot because, like, you know, there's people that decide they want to take on a new venture, and then 3-6 months in they stop, and then they go chase.
3 weeks in, they'll stop.
Yeah. Even 3 weeks, like they'll just stop and then they go to the next thing. But the thing is, like, the grass is not green on the other side. Like, you have to stay on path. So, like, for you, I think it's very admirable. Like, you stayed on the same path since I've known you. Like, the same industry, same everything.
Yeah.
So, like, what advice would you give someone when it comes to, like, just staying focused and not paying attention to the outside noise and just focusing, like, on that thing?
You gotta, if you chase 5 rabbits, you won't catch one. I'm a firm believer of that. I like what Andrew Carnegie says. He says, put all your eggs in one basket until that basket overflows where you're forced to put in different baskets. Most people can't get one plate to spin, but they're trying to spin 6 plates at the same time. So I think it's just they're trying to be grandparents before they're really actually parents, right? So it's better that you learn one thing, become valuable. That's how you earn income, right? Become valuable in the marketplace. Get really good at it. Become hard to replace is what Bob told me to do. So become hard to replace in what you're doing, and other opportunities will come, but you got to stay focused. You have to stay focused. Most people can't stay focused, right? Most people are inconsistent being consistent. You got to be consistent in what you're doing. Give it a year is what Bob told me to do. Give it 1 full year. Most people can't give it 1 full month,
Man.
right? So give it a full year, see where you're at in the year, and if you don't like where you're at, then move on. But I loved what I was at. I mean, I got great results my first year, and I met a lot of amazing people. And then ever since then, everything started growing for me. So just keep nurturing that seed, man, and stop trying to chop down 10 different trees when you got just chop down one at a time.
Right.
And that what you said is so important, that year, because me and Tristan talk about that all the time. We're like, just a year. Like, you have to give it a year because, like, for example, with us, when we started our agency, that first year there was really no growth. But literally once, like, after that 12 months ended, things started to just blow up and things started to work out because, like, there's, like, that learning phase you got to go through. There's the process you got to go through to, like, learn because, like, in the first year, you can't expect to make $1 million.
Right.
It's possible, but you got a lot to bump your head, a lot of walls to bump your head against.
I think for me, it wasn't the money that I was really attracted to. It was really the growth. I was loving the Darrin that I was becoming. And I think that too many people are chasing the money. You know, for sure, make some income. You know, you better be making some income. You want to earn a profit. but fall in love with the growth. You know, I think Bob just got me so much involved with the daily activities where, like, people say, how'd you get the Lambo? I'm like, I don't know. You know, how did you make your first, whatever your income I was earning? I can't tell you. There's not one specific thing that I did. It was those daily things that matched up to the big thing at the end. But you're so focused on what you're doing every single day, like you're not looking at the results. I never looked at the results. I never look at the results. The present is boring to me. I was always looking at the future and where I wanted to be, and I let that become my home. I let that become who Darrin Gibson is. We're human beings, right? Not human doers. We're human beings. You got to start being that person and start acting as if you have it right now. So every day was just fun to me. I was just having fun. I think I was just enjoying the work process, the grind, the events, the no calls, no shows. I was enjoying more of that than I was my rewards for some reason. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, behind everything is a certain motivation, and almost always it's a lifestyle based thing. Like you want to live a certain type of life. It's even behind people's reason to have kids, or people's reason to be an athlete, or people's reason to do anything. It's because they want the lifestyle that another human has. They want the opportunities that are afforded to that other person to also be afforded to them, and they don't realize that it's usually right in front of them. Right. So I think that's the big focus when you said multiple times to find a mentor and do exactly what they tell you to do, because yes, your money might align with them or surpass it. Yes, your vehicles might align with them and surpass it, but what you're usually chasing is a piece of their lifestyle to adopt and to obtain. And your growth is you're gonna see that change. Like you said, you like the Darrin that you are becoming.
Yeah.
That's why Josh and I do the same things and consistently and work on ourselves constantly, because when I look at a journal from 6 months ago, and eventually I'll be able to say from 6 years ago, I'll be able to be like, damn, look at what I used to think and write, and look at the things that maybe we used to be stressed over that I don't even feel that feeling anymore, right? And and I think that that's important to understand, that you said goals are free to grow to, right? Well, that's the same thing for the type of lifestyle that you want as well. It's not just about the money. Why do you really want the money?
Right.
Why do you really want the car? Why do you really want this accolade?
Right.
Because it's going to make you feel a certain way, and because you're going to get a certain presence about your day.
Right.
And Josh said this on our last episode. We were talking about conquering yourself and really trying to get that voice out of your head, or doing those little things. And he's like, I'm trying to really think of the feeling that you were describing, because he was saying there's going to be one day where I've done these things with my fitness, and I've done these things with my mind, and I've done these things with my money, where I can sit and breathe, man, look at what I've created. Look at the opportunities that I have. And I think so many people get so focused on just that day that they can kick back and relax or sit and think look at what I've created, that they miss all those daily steps that it takes to get there. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you about that too. What is that feeling when you say that growth? What does that feel like to say, well, I'm not making money, or I'm losing money, or I'm investing money, and I'm swiping on a card, but I'm growing at the same time. So I have to stay in. I have to do this. What does that feel like?
I think everyone should have a sense of urgency where you To piggyback off the other question you asked me, what made you keep going, is I didn't have a plan B. This was an all or nothing type of deal for me. And since I was around, let's say, Bob and Linda and et cetera, the language is bigger than the language that my friends was talking. Or the language that my environment was talking about. Environment's more important than heredity, right? It doesn't matter what you were born and raised into. What matters is who you're surrounded by every single day. Whoever has your ear has your life, right? Or what you tune into, you turn into.
Right.
So by me being around Bob and Linda, when I did a really good goal, right? Let's say 6 figures, 6-figure goal. When I get around them, they're like, that's it. Keep going for more. But when you get around people that maybe never have seen that, and their awareness is not as big as that yet. I look at income as growth. If you're making $1 million a year, your mindset's different than the person that's making 6 figures a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when we're talking about it's frequencies is what Bob says, right? Every channel has a frequency. So wherever you're trying to get to, you got to grow into that person. Like, I'm not just looking to get $1 million and living off that. I'm looking to have $1 million mentality, right? That if your money does leave, you know how to grow from that and earn it back again.
Exactly.
Right. So it's all about, you know, I'm not trying to get rich quick. You know, I'm trying to get rich for sure. Meaning, like, I'm trying to keep it, I'm trying to grow from it, and I'm trying to duplicate that within my organization or people that I'm mentoring. So I think it's just finding that sense of urgency and falling in love with growing, man. Failing forward is what John Maxwell says. You got to fall in love with failing forward because you're going to fail. If you're scared to fail, you've already lost in this thing called life. You got to almost fall in love with failing forward, right? Because you don't learn from your successes, you learn from your failures.
Every time.
Every time I get a success, you don't learn from that. You get recognition from success. You learn from your failures. So it's very important that you not fall in love with failures, but get comfortable with that feeling that, hey, man, I'm not trying to get things done. Or what I like what Grant Cardone says. He says most people are trying to do things perfectly. I'm trying to get something done. While you're trying to figure out how to get it done perfectly, I've already took 10 steps ahead of you because I'm trying to get something done.
Yeah.
So I think that's what most people are. They're losing themselves by trying to find out the perfect niche. You're not going to find the perfect niche. Just get something done. And then figure out how you can get the next thing done better than what you did yesterday.
Right, and reassess and constantly reassess because like it's more important to have that $1 million mind than that $1 million like once, right?
Exactly.
Because it'll never leave in that case, right? You might invest it in other places or spend it in other places, but you are now $1 million man or woman. So you see things differently.
Right.
There's a really good interview with Drake that's out right now. It's like 2.5 hours long with that rap radar, right? And so he's like, what? He's like, they were asking him like, did you ever see it going this far? And he was like, well, once I started making $1 million, I started to realize that there was things that $1 million couldn't get me.
Yeah.
So then I needed 10. Yeah. And I started to find out that $10 million couldn't get me this.
Yeah.
So I need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a level of awareness. And I think that it's so difficult for people to wrap their minds around that there is more. So they get trapped, like not pushing for more. Like, if that makes sense, like what separates me from that $1 million man, there's so many possibilities, but there's really only one. It's awareness.
Right.
They're aware of something. And Bob talks about that as well. He says, you know, you're not happy making $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month. You're just not aware of how to make $1 million a month.
Yeah.
Like, you would make $1 million a month if you knew how to do it.
Exactly.
And so, like, unlocking that awareness is super important. And you even said frequencies, and I wanted to ask you about that because, like, before this recording, super hungry, super tired, got a bunch of work to do, like, and so, like, I started doing push-ups and jumping jacks. I'm like trying to fix like my energy, my frequency. I'm trying to change my vibration. I'm trying to put myself in a different state. Yeah. And I want to ask you, like, about that and kind of go a little even deeper of how important it is to reset your energy and your vibration, because, like, you have an attractive energy. People follow you. Like, even if you don't post on social media, you continuously grow followers. Like, people pay attention to you. Right? And you become valuable. You have a instant impression of increase when you walk into the room. And I think so many people see that in others and they don't understand that that can be for them, that they can create it in their life. So I want to, like, just dive right into it and ask you, like, how important is that in how have you cultivated in your own life?
I like what Bob says, that the body is an instrument of the mind. So whenever people say, I don't have the energy to do something, they're really just saying you don't have the desire to do something. You don't find energy, you release it. And like me, like, I wake up every day at 4 a.m. I just came back from Florida with Bob and Linda and went out there for just to reevaluate my goals. We were out there in December, and I got a big goal this year and wanted to talk to them about some things. And as I'm waking up at 4, Bob's up at 3:30, you know, and I'm just like, man, where is this guy getting all this energy? You know?
He's like 89 now, right?
Or 86.
86.
Yeah. And I think 86, yeah. And Linda's up as well. You know, it's just, and you see people that are 20 years old, 21 years old, they're getting up around 12, 11, you know, so it really age has nothing to do with it. It's really the mind, you know. And I think that Bob just programmed his mind to for one, always have high energy. For two, you know, always get to work. And subconsciously, by me being around that energy, I'm going to obviously subconsciously attract some of that, right?
Suggestion.
So exactly. So auto-suggestion is what I'm studying right now for sure. So it's very important that we identify what our auto-suggestion is, meaning what is our mindset? If you lost all your income today, what would you think to go back to? Is it a job? Is it building something? Is it, you got to know that about yourself. You got to ask yourself these hard questions. If you break up with your spouse, whatever the case may be, forget about money, just anything, in any circumstance, you know, what is your auto-suggestion going back to? And if you want to change that, repetition, there's two ways of changing the mindset. One is repetition, and one is emotional impact. And normally emotional impacts are negative, right? 9/11 was an emotional impact for most people, right? But in most cases, what I've learned is for most people in the masses, they only change their life when something really, really bad happens. But if you don't want to wait until something really, really bad happens, you got to go through the long process, which is repetition.
Right.
Like people like I've been in this thing now for my entrepreneurship journey for 6 years now. I started when I was 23. This 23-year-old's way older than this 6-year-old. So if I go back to my old friends or the things that I used to listen to, the things I used to do, the paradigm is way stronger than this 23-year-old's way stronger than the 6-year-old. So I have to, what is it Bob says, create a new model that and let the existing model become obsolete, right? Meaning you don't think about the old model. You don't change the past by you thinking about the past. The Bible says what? Let the dead bury the dead. Meaning you got to think about what you want and create a whole new model that you want that makes this old model obsolete. Too many people I think the biggest thing that Bob has done with me, and Linda as well, I'll give Linda Proctor a lot of my credit, is they taught me how to think. They taught me how to think. That's exactly right. Most people, Bob says 2% think, 3% think they think, 95% would rather die than think, meaning they just look around the room and see what everybody else is doing and they become conformed to it.
Yep.
Right?
Fall in line,
right? Because they're scared to think for themselves. Or when times get hard, right? They're scared to think for themselves. They go right back to default. So it's very important that you change your default, whatever your default is in your computer, which is your brain. Whatever your default is, it's very important to change it to what you want. Like Bob said this, I think the biggest thing what Bob told me, there was 2 quotes that Bob really smacked me on the head about. He said, most people, what'd he say? How do you escape from a prison when you don't know you're in one? Most people are in a prison, they don't even know they're in one.
Right.
It's already hard enough to escape from prison when you know you're in one.
Right.
Right? So that was one of the things I had to reevaluate for me. I'm like, man, I'm in a prison, and I do know I'm in one now. Now how can I get out of it? And Bob said repetition of you changing the way that you're thinking, changing your default. And it may take some time based on how strong your paradigm is. I don't know how strong your paradigm is. And I had to keep changing that every single day. So when I started to get up at 4 a.m., I didn't start off because I used to get up, 9 a.m. or something. I didn't start from 9 to 4. I gradually went up to that. I don't even need an alarm clock anymore. My body just automatically wakes me up now, right? Because that's my default now. So it's very important that you figure out how you can, whatever you're trying to change your paradigm to or change and paradigm is this as well. Most people get into this information. They're like, I need to change my paradigm. A paradigm is a multitude of things, a multitude of different habits. You need to change one habit, 2 habits at a time. Bob says never try to change 2 habits, more than 2 habits at a time. Figure out which habit you want to change and have fun with that. Because we're going to constantly, all through our life, keep trying to change some habits or replace the habit, not change it, replace it. So figure out which habit you want to replace, and that's when you start to change your paradigm. Don't try to change the whole thing at one time. You're never going to change anything. So figure out 1 or 2 things, and one thing was, I want to wake up early. 2 thing was, I want to become very, very, very influential. So I started telling myself that. Bob was like, look in the mirror and tell yourself this every single day. Yell at yourself, literally yell at yourself. I became a habitual liar, but for the good things, not for the bad. I told myself a pack of lies that wasn't true that I wanted to become true, and it became my life. The Lamborghini was one of them. 6 figures was another. I mean, so I started telling myself all these pack of lies, and then behold, it became true.
Man, and that you just dropped some bombs. Yeah, we need
There's
that.
so
We
many
need
to
that sound
unpack. I wish I
effect.
could like take notes. Like I feel like the Kermit the Frog gif, like taking notes, like
Right.
mental
The
notes.
the problem is people tell themselves it for a week or 2 weeks and they don't see the results and then they give up. That's just like you going to your girlfriend or your wife or whoever it is, and she tells you I'm pregnant, and then you come to her and 10 days later and say, "Where's the baby?"
Yeah.
You know that there's developing, there's things that need to take place in all those. How many days is it? Is it what?
It's 9 months, 270 days.
Yeah, exactly. So right, they don't come to you in 2 months and say, "Hey man, where's the baby?" Oh, I give up. No, you don't put your food in the oven and then take it out before it's ready. You got to keep your food in there, meaning your goal, until you can really eat your goal and really enjoy your goal.
Sometimes it comes out a little burnt and you got to reassess.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's not done all the way yet and you got to reassess. And like,
Yeah.
that's one thing Josh and I did all 2019. Like we worked for free for clients to figure out a process
Right.
that would like create value in the marketplace. Like we worked for free for clients across
Every
the
day.
country every single
And
day.
you got to do that as well. I mean, people say all the time, it's imagine you going to your job. I was talking to someone 2 days ago, and I said, imagine you going to your job and you saying, "Hey, Josh, I'll be in for work. Just give me my check first, and then I'm going to work." Your job's gonna look at you like you're crazy.
Right.
No, you need to come in here and put in the work, and then we'll pay you.
Right. They want the fire before they put on the wood.
Exactly, right? So in the beginning, for sure, you're going to have to do more than what you're being paid for, then eventually you'll be paid for more than you're doing. I'm getting paid for more than what I'm doing today. I worked my behind off my first and second and third year, but I'm getting paid way more income than when I was getting paid my first and second year, but I was doing a heck of a lot more work back then. And that's what you have to do in the beginning. You have to do more than what you're being paid for, and eventually you'll be paid for more than you're doing.
Man, that's crazy. And so you mentioned, because I think one very important thing, me and Tristan mentioned this a couple times, like, because there's people out there that do try to change a bunch of habits all at once.
Yeah.
But what happens is you just revert back. Like if you try to take on too much at one time, it can be overwhelming, especially if your paradigm isn't where it needs to be. So for you, because you mentioned waking up at 4, so like, what does a morning routine look like for Darrin? Because honestly, I looked at your morning routine when I was coming up, and I literally would just I would see on your stories and whatnot. I would just do what you did.
Yeah.
And I still do that.
Josh was, man, and even you, Tristan, you've contacted me recently, and you guys are very coachable. And a lot of people, I remember I was in the back seat. Bob was taking Linda and I to the airport, and Bob said, "You know what the problem is, Darrin?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Most people never do what I tell them to do." And I'm thinking, Bob, what? I'm like, you're Bob Proctor. I mean,
Right.
come on. And he said, "Darrin, you didn't do exactly what I told you to do." So I had to look at myself and say, you know what, you're right. Because the paradigm is that much stronger than what you think.
Than looking at somebody who on paper has the lifestyle that most people would do anything for, except for when that person says, "Hey, do this."
Exactly.
No, that's too much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If it doesn't match your paradigm, you're not going to do it. And that's why you got to be intentional on what you're doing. And you two are extremely intentional. I mean, you guys have, look at the team now. The team is growing, and you guys are now in a new office. I mean, you're doing a phenomenal job, man. By the time, give it about another year. Watch where you guys will be.
Appreciate that. Appreciate
year.
that.
So what does a morning routine look like for Darrin?
It's now it's different. It's way different now. You know, so it's I wake up still at 4, and I still talk to myself in the mirror because I think Les Brown said it. You know, your first 10 to 15 minutes of the day is going to dictate your whole day. So I'm just like I'm just yelling at myself, man, and just telling myself a pack of lies that hasn't came true yet that I know is going to come true. I know it works now.
Yeah.
You know, the
'Cause
information.
you've watched it work.
I've seen it work with my life so many times, and my brother's life as well, and you know, my team, my partners as well. So I know this stuff works. So and when you know something works, you have a lot more fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I just have more fun with it in the mornings. I go to the gym at 5 a.m. I'm there for about an hour and a half. I work out every day, so and then come back and do some studying. I study that's another thing too. I remember when I wasn't getting the results that Bob was saying I was going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, Bob, man, I'm not getting the results that you said that I was going to do and get. And he said, well, what are you doing every day? And my whole schedule was just reading and studying. And Bob was like, well, for sure, you need to go out there outside the world and attract what you're studying.
Mm-hmm.
Study for about an hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour, and really take action into what you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, they say, hey, Darrin, I've read Think and Grow Rich. But you're thinking and growing poor, though. How are you? There's no way we've read the same books. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that you not just say you read the book, really study the book. Like Bob or Linda, right now, Linda just sent me something 2 days ago, and she said, study this all the way until March. And that's our next event that we have in Toronto. Mm-hmm. I'm reading this little paragraph for now we got 7 weeks now until March or something like that. For 7 weeks straight. Most people say, oh, this is boring. I wouldn't do that. But that's how you change your paradigm.
Yeah.
Is you start off, Bob would tell me him and Sandy Gallagher are reading a paragraph or even a sentence for a whole year.
Commitment.
And most people are trying to rush the process.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, they're not rushing the process. They understand that the mindset is very fragile and it is a process. Mm-hmm. So you want to learn something over and keep reading it over and over again so that you have a full understanding of it. King Solomon said it best, and all you're getting, get understanding. Get understanding. Don't get the book and read and be done with it. Get understanding in what you're reading. Mm-hmm. So try to understand the things that apply it in your life. So, now this week I'm not going to eat any meats this week. I just want to say I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Constant,
little tests.
Just little tests because I want to be in control of my mindset. I don't want my mindset to control me. Mm-hmm. I like the quote that I read earlier this morning. It said, "Figure out life before life figures you out." Mm. And that's what repetition does for you.
Yeah, getting the information through you instead of getting through the information. Exactly. That's what Myron Golden talks about. He's a speaker I really like. He has a coaching program also called Bible Success Secrets, and he charges people $1 million a year to consult with him. He says, I'll charge you $1 million on a contingency that I'll get you to 3, and once I get you to 3 million, then you'll pay me that $1 million, and then you'll pay me $1 million every single year to take you to 10 and beyond. And he does it. Right. And so he coaches people, and he's like, I use the Bible for all of my teachings and stuff like that. But sure. He's like a super impactful speaker. The way he teaches and breaks things down. And one thing that he said is most people are in such a rush to get through the information. Mm-hmm. They don't let the information get through them. Yeah. And you said it yourself, there's no way we read the same book because we're not doing the same thing. It's like if you study math, if all three of us pick up Algebra 1 and we follow the principles of math and we do the equation, slope y equals mx plus b or whatever, and now we're all getting the same results. We put in these numbers, we get these results. It all makes sense. And now we go into Algebra 2 and eventually calculus, and you see people fall off. And you see people start to get bad grades, right?
I was one of them.
Yeah. But it's just a language. It really is just a language. That's what math is. Well, success has the same principles. Success has the exact same thing. One thing, actually, I won't go into it. Josh and I are working on some super secret, but success has the same principles, and there are pieces of the puzzle that are very, very important. That's why Josh asked you about a routine, because it's every single successful person that we model, that we follow, has that morning routine. Yeah. And one of the things that I asked you about in the beginning was when you understood it was possible for you. I kind of want to ask as well, how do you help push those infinite possibilities into other people? And help guide them. It is, because they have to become aware themselves. Yeah. And like you said, you're Bob. Why won't people listen to you? Mm-hmm. Well, if we could say the same thing, it's a Darrin, just do what he says, right? He has what you're looking for. So I guess really, not only how can you push and display that into others, but how can people understand it for themselves to another level, to where they can apply it, not just seeing it in the experience, but how can they be it until they are it, if that makes sense.
That's the hardest thing. I like to tell people to show than tell. I think too many people are trying to tell and not show. I just try to be the best leader that I can, to the best example. If I tell you that, now what I've learned is this, when it comes to people like Jason and little young Jason and et cetera, when I give them a goal, I try to put their goal inside of me. Like if I say, hey man, we're gonna do this, I try to act as if I'm gonna do it with you. So I think the biggest thing is doing it with the people, that people can see, oh man, he actually cares and he really wants to see me do it. That was the hardest thing for me personally, was growing other people and getting them to do what I did, because my energy was different, my urgency was different, my why is different. So it was extremely hard. And the hardest thing is letting them do it without you being there. And that was hard, because I always wanted to be that guy to close everything out, to be in front, and what I've realized is, if they want to grow, they're going to follow your lead. And it's still a challenge today, is finding those people that's not talking about it, that's really doing it, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can talk it, but that's really, really doing it, and that really wants change. So what I would say is just be the best leader that you possibly can be, man. Just be the best example. That's all I can do. I can't
do it for
I
them.
can't force anybody to do anything.
Exactly.
I wish I could. I wish, there's some people that I've came across some really, really good people. Some people that are probably better than me in certain areas. Some people that are better than me, skill-wise, attractiveness-wise. Maybe not in looks, but but no, I'm just playing. But activity-wise, they were just good. The only thing that made me where I'm at and them where they are is they stopped.
Exactly.
And Bob talks about that too. Bob says, Darrin, I've come across a lot of people that were way better than me. They just stopped.
And that's exactly why I asked you that question, because when we bring on somebody like you, everybody will then go to, how can Darrin help me get here?
Yeah.
But I'm passing it back to them. Like, you can hear it from the man himself.
Yeah.
That you've got to do that on your own, and you have that opportunity, and you have those possibilities like within you. Like you have that, like Bob says, that magnificent mind, like filled with those opportunities and filled with like those creative ideas to do it on your own. Because I think every leader, and Josh and I have experienced this, goes from wanting to do it for them to then doing it with them to then I'm going to do it with or without you. And if you want to get here, you can follow the same stuff. Like, here's the blueprint, but you gotta drive the car yourself in a way.
I've learned too as well, man, success leaves clues. And we always talk about that, but poverty leaves clues too. So it's really just following that roadmap of success, whatever that system is in place for you. And just keep going, man. I mean, the Bible says it best. Walk by faith, not by sight. Meaning faith, you can't see it. You can see it, but you don't have it. And don't walk by sight of what you see. So I think with me, it was just, I think I just kept going back to the seminars. I kept investing into myself when it comes to programs and books. And we just got a book earlier in December. It's called The Techniques of Getting Things Done. Fairly expensive book, it's going like for $450 on eBay and $150 on Amazon, and it's a hard book to find. But I saw Bob reading it, and I'm like, hey, if Bob's reading it, I want to read it too.
Same thing with one right now.
And most people would say, oh, that's too much to pay for a book. But I'm thinking, my mindset now is, why is this book that much money to pay for?
Yeah.
I'm concerned about what's inside the book.
Yeah.
So it's all about just doing exactly what the other person is doing and kind of mimicking them and creating your own flavor with it. That's all it is.
Yeah, and you said something that was very important. You said you just never stop. Because like when most people, especially like we come across all the time, people say they want to be like in a position like we're in, or they want to follow the footsteps. But what they don't understand is they think it's going to be like, since we've been through our process, their process is going to be easier. No, like you have to still go through those same emotions. You have to still go through that same grind. You still got to follow that same formula.
Yeah.
Like there's no easy way out. Like everybody who has success has to go through it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure.
Everybody.
Yeah. And you never know what they had to give up to get there. You know,
Exactly. You never know.
I had to give up a lot of family time my first year. You know, I get emotional about it. You know, a lot of the meetings that we've had, I'm big on family. My whole family's big on family. You've been to my mom and dad's, right?
I've never been.
You know?
I've never
Okay.
been.
Yeah, I've been.
Josh
Yeah,
has.
big on
Josh has.
family. Yeah.
You know, so it's we're huge on family, and when I'm missing out on, I mean, we've had meetings where I've had to be in Toronto and had to miss out on 3 days for our family vacation that we take every year. I may not be looking at it as, you know, mom, dad, I'm trying to do what I have to do, but my mom and dad have jobs, you know, and they're looking forward to that. You know,
Those
a year
3 days,
prior,
yeah.
you know, a
Yeah.
year prior, they're looking forward to that. So, and I didn't care about any of that my first and second year. I realized that, you know, I have to do what I have to do for us to have some better years, you know, and those are some of the things I had to sacrifice. My nephew, couldn't see him a lot, you know, and so there's a lot of things I wasn't happy about, but I'm happy that I did that in the beginning because, I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't do a lot of that stuff that I've done.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of looking forward for a vacation for a year,
Yeah.
like being on vacation for a year.
Yeah.
You know, creating that kind of opportunity, those kinds of positions, that lifestyle,
Yeah.
right? Like, because everybody, again, is like chasing, it seems like, a lifestyle or a piece of somebody's lifestyle that they want. Because then what you got to realize, too, like, when you go down that path, like Josh and I have, like you have, like the listeners of the show, when they're all on their different journey, like, if you're going to accept that lifestyle, you also have to accept what comes with it.
Oh, yeah.
And those sacrifices that you've made, like to some people, maybe family is like, maybe they don't have one.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's nothing to them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody is like, it's just the money, right? For somebody else, it might be their fitness, like giving up foods that they love or something like that. Because like you said, you do those little challenges, like you're giving up meat for a week.
Yeah.
Josh and I tried different challenges all through 2019. He's on one right now that's hard. Like it's super hard. And like pushing in those little steps and trying to get a little bit better every day. Like instead of trying to like have this one big thing one day, like you're just trying to get better day by day by day.
Yeah.
And so I guess final question that I want to ask is, you know, what does 2020 hold for Darrin? What's the future hold for Darrin and your team and the people you're building? You know, what is that thing that, you know, in a year when we go and do this again, you know, what do you want to be and sharing, and where do you want to be at, and what can people expect to see you grow through this year?
Well, I think, you know, I've made the decision to now move to Toronto for 6 months. We're building some stuff out there. I'm going to be closer with my mentors and my business partners as well. And for me, it's all about just doing the uncomfortable, man. Get back uncomfortable. You know, it's very uncomfortable for me to leave for the next 6 months, and a lot of other things as well. But I know that I have to do that for me to grow my awareness, whatever that awareness is.
Because you don't know, you just know it's there,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. So you know, I want to become more valuable to the marketplace. I want to grow myself to unleash myself to other people, and just help more, man. Help more. I think that there's a lot of people that are lost. That's why I really admire what you guys are doing with the mind flux and et cetera, and putting more valuable information out. I think there's a lot of people that are looking for opportunities, and they don't know what they don't know. And it's very important that people like us that step up, that's not scared to step outside our comfort zone or get out the average box.
Or who are scared and do it anyways.
Exactly, or whoever. We're all scared, right? Yeah, so it's, I think it's very important that the world needs more leaders. We need lesser followers. We need more leaders.
Josh, you got anything?
Nah, all I gotta say is I can't wait to go back and listen to this. because I just got notes. I got notes in my head.
I got like clip notes, like, ooh, what did he say right
Yeah.
here? I gotta go through it.
But I mean, ultimately, I just like wanted to say thank you for coming on, because obviously we had you on once before, and it's a whole year later. Like literally, I wonder if how many days apart. It's really been like a whole year, almost exactly.
And I was telling my team, I mean, I don't do a lot of interviews. A lot of people, they ask me, not because of, me being, an a-hole. It's just, I'm very busy. I do it. You guys know I travel a lot. I'm looking to give all my energy to my team and grow them and grow other people as well. But like I said, what you guys are doing here is I would always keep coming back to doing more of these. Based on the people you guys have interviewed, I know that they don't do a lot of interviews as well. So, obviously not just me, but a lot of people see the value of what you guys put out. Congratulations, man. I really love what you guys are doing, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Guys, one thing I want you to remember about this episode and everything that we've unpacked is like not just taking Darrin's advice of finding mentors, finding coaches, and following them, but pay attention to their stories and try to create those stories in your own life in your own way. Like one thing that you said, seeing the book that they're reading, well, I got to read that book too, because I got to know how to create that in my life, right? Like the Lambo wasn't about just having the car. It was that somebody else said, hey, you can have this too. This can be part of your story, right? You're looking for pieces to add into your story. And one thing you even said, to say that I've done it. Right. For you to grow, you don't know what that awareness is, but you can look at pieces of other people's stories and try to create them of your own, because now in 6 months, you're going to be able to be on stage and say, I left my home and went on the road to another country for 6 months to learn. And like, that's how committed I am to this. And that could be that 1% that somebody says, oh, I'm going to listen to Darrin now. And then their life changes and their life changes. And that's one way that you create value in yourself and in the marketplace is to take those pieces of the stories and fill your book until it goes from that like 10-page ebook to that 1,000-page, story, true story. And so thank you for sharing yours, man. I like really appreciate that. And I hope that people really, like, for everybody listening and for anybody watching on YouTube, that you guys adopt that mentality and understand it, because that is what this show is about. That's our first interview with you, like, helped us validate the direction that we want to take this. And we've even said it every single episode, because you said it on your episode. When you change what you're looking at changes. So you yelling at yourself in the mirror, you looking at yourself in the Lambo, Josh and I in our office, and like as we've created space and created things, in our lives, like we're changing what we're looking at and constantly diving deeper into ourselves, because it's not just about what's in that book or what's in that car. It's about how you would feel and how you are going to write that story when you're doing it. So again, man, thank you. And I think it's super valuable.
I wanted to say two things to leave off, man. With the Lamborghini and all that stuff, that was one of the reasons why I got rid of it as well, was because I didn't want to be well known. I wanted to be worth known. And I think that you can fake it. I tell people all the time, don't fake it till you make it. Faith it till you make it. So when you do look for a mentor, look at their heart, look at their principles and see if it lines up to yours, and just do exactly what that mentor tells you to do. And also, to end it off, the biggest thing that I'm learning this year as well is you'll never outgrow your self-image. So if you're wanting to grow this year, if you really wanted to make a quantum leap, you got to not just grow your results or try to get better results. Try to get a better self-image of who you are. And when you get a better self-image of who you are, your results will gradually start to change. So that's my ticket to you guys, man. Is you'll never outgrow your self-image. Make sure you treat yourself good, grow yourself, and when you change your self-image, when you change your perception of you, your whole life changes.
Yeah, everything about it. Awesome, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here again. Guys, if you are looking to take this step, to take a dive into this world, Josh and I, it took us a year to make it. We created the Mindset Accountability Challenge. You can find it at mindflux.com/Mac. And in it is a thing you said, Quantum Leap is U squared. It's a small book, but it's something that we are going to ship to you on top of a lot of other things. So if you go back and listen to episode 2, you can hear about everything that's in that challenge. It is packed full of stuff, but not only things, but the activities that help cultivate this concept, to conquer yourself, to develop the confidence to take that path, because understand you will be scared, but you can do it, and you will do it. So guys, thank you for tuning in. You can find us at MindFluxed everywhere, MindFluxed, especially on Instagram. Where can they find you, Darrin?
What is my Instagram? Darrin, Darrin_Gibson 7 is my Instagram. Darrin Gibson is my Facebook. You can find me there.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And you guys can find Benji, our producer, at Benji Got Beats. I'm one of your hosts at Tristan Is Thinking. And where can they find you, Josh?
Find me on IG at I am Josh Matthews.
Boom. Awesome, guys. Last thing, because you never know when I'm going to end this. Last thing, I know you got value from this, so please leave us a review of your favorite quote from Darrin and then share that with somebody. That's the most important thing to us. Every Monday, we do a Million Monday where we screenshot our favorite things from MindFlux or put our favorite snippet from the show on our Instagram story, tag at MindFlux and use Million Monday because we're giving away gear, and we'll pick a different winner every single week. So I know you're going to have plenty of golden nuggets to take out of this episode. I know I did. Yeah. So go ahead and share that with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe so we can grow that count and get this to more people. With that, guys, see you next week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Peace.
See you guys.